and today we'll be talking about how to dive into mobile magic, more like a beginner guide for those that are interested in app development. Um, so basically, I'll be covering what are the different types of mobile apps that we have, what are the different platforms for mobile app development, and also what are the essential tools and skills for mobile app development. So basically, people feel like web development and mobile development, they are more like the same thing. It's just like let's say for web, you are seeing the website on your phone, so it's basically mobile development. I'll try to see how I can clarify all of that. So yeah, we have different types of mobile applications. So we have the native apps, we have the web apps, and we have the hybrid apps. um Farouk, please, can you unmute yourself? Can you mute yourself rather? Now, the native apps are developed specifically for just particular mobile platform, such as iOS and Android. So basically, they are written in native programming languages of the platform. So let's say for iOS, the native language for iOS is just Swift, right? While for Android is Java. So we have Java, we have Kotlin. Now, native apps are they actually offer the best performance and also user experience because they are more like built from scratch, and they can be more expensive and time consuming to develop. Trust me, when I tried Kotlin, to be very honest, it is quite hard. It's not really straightforward. That's because we are building the app from scratch, right? Same thing for Swift also. So Swift is just for building mobile applications for iOS alone. Now, what we mean by native app is you can't use the code that you write for iOS, you can't use for the code for Android, right? It's just specifically for that particular platform. You understand? Now, for webs app, they are basically designed and developed using web technologies like HTML, the normal CSS, and JavaScript. So they can be accessed on any device with a web browser, right? And regardless of the mobile platform that you are using, web apps are typically less expensive and they don't really consume much time to develop compared to when you are developing a native app or mobile application, and they offer the same level of performance and user experience. So the websites that you are seeing and all, they can also be built in form of web applications. That's the whole thing I'm trying to say, using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? Now we have the hybrid apps. Now the hybrid apps, they combine the element of both the native and web apps, and they are developed using web framework such as React Native or Flutter. So this allows developers to just write one single code and it would work on different platforms, right? Now, hybrid apps, they offer good balance of cost, time, performance, and also user experience. For instance, now for Flutter, Flutter is actually a framework whereby once you build once you write just a single code base, it works on both iOS, macOS, Linux, um, six different platforms, right? You don't need to write different code for iOS, you don't need to write different code for Android, unlike when it is native app that you are developing. Like I said earlier on, if it is native app you are developing, you have to write the code for Swift separately, then you have to write for Android separately. So that's more like the differences between um the types of mobile applications. So you would have to, like, if you feel like you'll be more comfortable building native apps, it's fine. If it is web apps you feel like you want to build, it's also fine. And if it is for hybrid, so these are just the differences and more like the advantages over another. Like I said earlier on, for native apps, they offer best performance, right, and user experience, but they are more expensive compared to when you are building an hybrid app. That's because for hybrid app, instead of you paying an an iOS developer, someone that writes Swift separately, then you now pay somebody that is writing that would write for Android too separately. if the person is building more like an hybrid app for you, for instance Flutter, you don't have to pay the person for or you build iOS separately, or you build Android separately, or you build macOS separately. That's because it's just one code the person would use. So these are more like the disadvantages and advantages of these mobile applications, right? Now we have the development platform. So the two popular ones that we have are the iOS and Android. Obviously, almost everybody makes use of just Android and iOS mobile applications, right? So iOS is the mobile operation system developed by Apple for its iPhones, iPad, and iPad Touch devices. So to develop iOS apps, you need a Mac computer and an Xcode, right? You can't use the normal Windows laptop to develop an iOS app. That's because you need Xcode. And you would also need the Apple Integrated Development Environment, the IDE. So for anyone that is interested in building iOS application, whether it's an hybrid app you want to build or native app natively, you would actually make use of a MacBook. So without a MacBook, you won't be able to use Xcode. While for Android, Android is a mobile operating system developed by Google. It is actually like the most popular mobile operating system in the world sef. So to develop Android apps, you would need a Windows, or you can actually, if you have a MacBook, you can use a MacBook or Linux computer, and you'd make use of Android Studio. You make use of Google's IDE for the Android development, right? Sometimes if you feel like, for me now, I am a Flutter developer, so sometimes I don't open my Android Studio. I only use Android Studio to install some of the SDKs that I would use, right? Then I just switch to Visual Studio Code. That's because Visual Studio Code is quite light compared to Android Studio. So these are the two platforms that you basically build on, right? The iOS platform and for Android. Now some of the essential tools. Sorry, I'm coming. All right. Some of the essential tools and skills you need to start as a mobile app developer. The first thing you need to do is you need to learn a programming language, right? To develop for native iOS development, you need to learn Swift. So if you are interested in learning for iOS development alone, you'd have to like check online and get resources to learn Swift. Swift is the programming language used to develop native iOS app. Then for native Android app, you need to learn Java and sometimes Kotlin too. Now, for web and hybrid apps development, you need to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and that's for web. So, let's say you want to build an hybrid app relating to, let's say, if you are using a Flutter framework or a React Native framework, you need to learn um, the framework, and the programming language used for Flutter is Dart, right? So you have to start with Dart if you want to learn for Flutter mobile application. While for Swift, while for iOS rather, you need to learn Swift, but for native, you need to learn Java. Now you would need an integrated development environment. So an IDE is a software application that provides a set of tools for writing, compiling, debugging, and testing code, right? Take it as your notes, right? Let's say you want to build something, you would need a platform where you write your notes, your codes. So the IDE is more like a set of tools that you make use of. So let's say you want to write, compile your code, debug, and all. So it consists of those tools that you need. Now, Xcode and Android Studio are both IDEs for mobile application development. So Xcode is basically and specifically for iOS, right? While Android Studio is for Android, like I said earlier on. And also you need an SDK. A software development kit is actually like a set of tools and libraries that developers can use to create software applications for a particular platform. Now, if you want to build for Flutter, you would have to like go to their website, and download the Flutter SDK. So once you download the Flutter SDK, you have to update your parts, then install some of the plugins that you need, then you can just start developing. And for Apple and Google, they both provide SDKs for their mobile applications development also. So these are more like the essential tools that you need as a beginner to start. So all you just have to do is you have to determine, let's say you want to go for iOS development, that's natively. You know that okay, you need to learn Swift, you need to like get the ID, your S code, then from your S code you get the SDK, right? Now if it is for Flutter, you know that okay, you have to first start with that. Now Flutter is just a framework, while that is like a programming language used. So once you get the materials, more like the resources needed, you'd have to download the IDE and the SDK tools. Then you'd you can now start as a beginner. Now getting started with mobile application development. So if you are interested in getting started with mobile application, these are some of the tools that I feel you would need. Now you have to just choose which platform you want, right? Decide which mobile platform you want to build for, if it is for iOS or Android or both, right? So once you first determine which one you want to go for, that would determine the programming language you would learn. So learn the programming language for the platform you choose. Like I said earlier on, if it is for iOS, you'd go for Swift. If it is for Android, you go for Java. And if it is for both, more like an hybrid app, then you have to decide if it is React Native you want or Flutter, then you choose the programming language. So you can go online, you can take a course or read about what's it called, the programming language or the platform for the platform you actually choose. So if you have issues with getting materials, you can always reach out to me or the team lead for Flutter in for GDSC OUI. So they will provide you with all the resources you need. Also, you need to download and install the IDE for the platform you choose. Now, download and install the IDE for platform you choose, either for Xcode or Android Studio. So, for those that feel like since you use Visual Studio Code, you would not need Android Studio. Actually, you would actually need Android Studio. There are some things that you need to install from Android Studio, right? Then later on, let's say now you have to learn the basics of mobile app development. So there are many online resources and tutorials.
Kausar, right? We kind of lost you there. Probably network issue.
How to add text, how to add colors,
Kausar,
containers. Yeah, can you hear me?
yeah, continue. Like we lost you for a moment. Yes.
Okay,
Continue.
okay. So let's say you are learning how to build mobile application using Flutter and you are watching a tutorial video. It's always better you'd learn using building like simple apps. You can start with a calculator, a weather app, more like a crude app, more like create read, a diary whereby you can just create something, then you'll be able to read it to display what you already wrote. Then you can always update what you've written and delete it. So these are some of like some simple apps that you can start with. So it's always advisable that when you are learning, you have like a theoretical aspect of what you've learned. I mean, the practical aspect of what you learned. Don't just watch videos, right? And feel like, oh, I already know how to do this. I already know how to do this. It's always better you practice using simple apps, right? Um, Wow, sorry my slides are short. But yeah, do you have any questions?
You don't know, no, go smile. You know that kind of thing.
Oh, Emiela, please try to unmute him.
In case you have any question, I am here.
Hmm.
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Alright.
And also,
Yeah, I can hear you. Go on, please.
Okay, I have a question. My question is that you say that iOS cannot be coded on Windows. So now for we that we have only Windows, it's not so easy for us to just go and get a iOS computer like Apple computer or laptop or whatsoever. So my question is that is there not any way that we can try to implement this on our Windows, except for like using like online? I'm not talking about online clouds. I'm not talking about use of Mac in the cloud. Like maybe there's any kind of VM machine that we can use on our system just to get the software like S code that you have mentioned run on our computer. Is there any way we can do it?
Yeah, yes. There's actually like a way you can do it. You can create a virtual machine, right? Whereby you'll be able to now install Xcode on it, then develop your iOS app. But it is always advisable to get like a MacBook because there are some settings that you'd actually like need to that is needed, right? So it's always either in case you are unable to set a virtual machine and install Xcode and all, you can just let's say meet with a friend that has a MacBook and just tell the person that can I create like a virtual machine on your system, then do the installation and be controlling your this thing from your side. But it's always advisable, sure, you get like a MacBook.
We have another question. Please, I still have another question.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
question is
go on. Go
um
on.
sometimes, like for example, if I'm using a computer that like I'm using Android Studio and Kotlin, so sometimes I have problem with the RAM and like the compatibility of the RAM and the software. Only Android Studio can take up to like 1 gig, sometimes 1.5 gig, and like my total RAM was 8 gig. And at the same time, I'm using code editor like Kotlin with IDE IntelliJ, and IntelliJ itself will take like another 1 gig. So and running Kotlin like some dependency, it also takes space, and the Android Studio. So now that's what I the problem I have. And I was like, is there any kind of production level we can use? Because sometimes I will use BlueStack, it will still consume my space. So I was like, I see it online, but that time I was unable to venture into it. I see the different kind of tools that we can use to run application, like the one that we have done already. So I was like, how can we do it just to save time and save memory on our computer when we are trying to run our apps?
All right. My first question would be, which platform are you building on? Are you building on just Android using Kotlin?
Yes, I'm building on just Android. Like I just started that time, so I was just even I was just
Oh,
using Android Studio, and I was just like, okay, there's something called Kotlin. So after I learned Kotlin, I was like, okay, using two of them together. That's now when I have the issues.
oh, okay. You can always use just Android Studio without IntelliJ, right? Let's say your Kotlin code, you can write it, you can have it inside your Android Studio. So basically, from my few knowledge on Kotlin, because I really don't write Kotlin, but from my few knowledge on Kotlin, I know you can always anything you want to do on Kotlin, you can actually do it on Android Studio. So you don't need to like open your is it IntelliJ? You don't need to open it. So you just make use of Android Studio. But I really don't know how to like cut the memory or minimize the memory stuff on Android Studio. Assuming you are doing every other language now, let's say Flutter, I would have said that oh, you can actually like use Visual Studio, but I have not tried developing an Android app using Visual Studio. I don't know if that is possible, right? But Have I been able to answer your question?
Okay, yes, yes, you have been able to answer my question.
All right. Do you have any other question?
I have one, but I've forgotten. Like I was trying to write them down, but I will still remember, Sha.
All right. So once you remember, just let me know, or you can just
Okay,
connect with me on Twitter so I can answer
okay,
any of your question. Right.
okay,
So any other question? Oh, sorry.
okay. I have one question.
Yeah, go on.
My main question is that you mentioned different kind of programming language and the kind of culture that we can use them with like iOS and Android.
Yeah.
So like, is there any particular and popular programming language? Like, there's a lot of libraries that have invested into it. Like, I'm not sure because I'm not into app development. No,
Yeah.
like we have in web development, we all know like almost everybody use React like
Yeah.
as a kind of framework. So is there any kind of like a popular library that people use and popular programming language that they use to handle either iOS or any Android that when it comes to web development is the first?
All right. I would, for me to answer your question, right, I would say it is based on efficiency. Now, I know some companies whereby they are still building on Kotlin, and that's because they feel um they need to build out their apps natively. So they prefer building their stuffs from scratch, right? They feel that's like the best option for them. Or some of them they've built the mobile app for like years. You get, so it's not easy for them to say they want to switch from one language to another language, right? Well, for iOS,
Okay.
iOS is either Swift or um you are using like a Flutter framework, right? Even if you use a Flutter framework, you still need S code for some of the
Okay.
what's it called. So it's not really based on popularity, it is based on their functionality, right?
Okay.
For some companies, they'll feel like since they want to develop, they don't want to spend much money to employ an Android developer or an iOS developer. They'll just go for an hybrid app, right? So they will either use React
Okay.
Native or Flutter. While there are some companies that they feel like they want to build their stuff natively, like WhatsApp now. WhatsApp is still, if you notice, the iOS design on WhatsApp is quite different from the
Yeah.
design on Android, and that's because WhatsApp has been in existence before Flutter safe. So that's the main reason why they are still building on the native app, like they are still building on what they already have before. So building application, choosing the right framework doesn't depend on popularity, but functionality, what they really want to do. There are some things that a company would want to achieve and they feel like the only way they can achieve this is by building it natively, right? While there are some that they feel like since Flutter is around, since we have React Native, they can always use either of the two. While some will feel like, let's just go for Swift. We just want to build it natively. So it depends on the functionality of what they feel like they need.
Okay, but assuming like me like this, I just started with mobile development. So like, and I have idea about Java, Kotlin,
Yeah.
and even though I don't know Flutter waves and C sharp as well, but and JavaScript with React Native. But sometimes like I don't have much time like in venture myself into mobile development. I just like use some kind of like 2 hours, just work and pause. So I have problem with like focusing on mobile development. So my main question is that how would you advise me like the path that I can follow, the particular programming language that you advise me to go and learn, and the framework, the right framework that I must be using with it?
I'm not going to
But
advise you on which
please
one
let's
you'd.
try to be a bit quick because of time. You know
Yeah.
uh,
So I'll
uh,
not advise on which one you should particularly go for, but I'll just give you advice based on your background, right? From what you said you already have a knowledge of what Kotlin is and what Java is. So it will be
Yeah.
easy for you to pick up Android development alone, more like natively, right? Now, if you now feel like you want to learn for Android and iOS together, and you don't have and you don't want to learn Swift separately, then I would advise you go for like an hybrid. Probably you'd now learn React Native or you'd learn Flutter. So it will just be based on your own preference of what exactly do you want to do, right? So if it is you want to learn for audio, let's say just one single code base and that would work on different platform, then you can just go for Flutter or React Native. But if you feel like you are fine with what's it called, with Kotlin, since you have like a knowledge of Kotlin and Java, then you can just go for what's it called, just building natively using Android.
Okay.
Yeah, and trust me, if you go for native stuff, they actually pay more compared to Flutter and React Native, and that's because um I would say it's quite saturated on Flutter side. So some companies, those that they've built their app like before, they still need developers that write Kotlin that build natively. So it depends on your choice. While Flutter, you'd some companies will actually like prefer it because you can do the work of both iOS developer and Android developer. So it's actually like a two thing. You can actually pick up React Native or Flutter today, then you can always like still learn, let's say, your Kotlin together with your what's it called, your Swift. So it all depends on your preferences and what you actually like want to achieve.
Okay. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that, Kausan. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, because time is not on our side again, we started with due to some issue. Anyways, I'd like to welcome David Onishi, the Flutter lead for GDSC OUI. David, are you there?
Yeah,
All right.
good evening, Farouk. Thank you very much. And
Evening. Welcome.
thank you, Carlson. Thank you, everyone. Please, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah,
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say my name is David Onushe. I'm a student at Oduduwa University. I study political science, but I learn Flutter. I do Flutter, so I'm a Flutter developer and I'm the Flutter lead for OUI. So basically, I'll be talking about my journey in tech, and if there's any question you would like to ask me, I'll be ready to answer it. Okay, so first of all, my story in Flutter started with the current GDSC lead, Adekule Samuel. He has really been the one that helped me so far in Flutter. So there will be no David in Flutter without Samuel. So I'm using this opportunity to tell him thank you anyways. So I started in 100 level, yes, in my 100 level. That was last 2 years. Yeah, that's 2020, 2 years. That's last year. I can't remember again. Wow. Anyways, I started August last year. Sorry for that. I started August last year. But before I started, I had a system that was very bad. So I was trying to like manage my way into it. So it was hard for me to like learn it then because my system was giving me issues. So I had to like um gather money, speak to some people, and I was able to get a better system. And I started learning Flutter. I got a course on Udemy. I always reach out to Samuel, and yes, I will not forget. I always reach out to Kausa also. She has also been very helpful too. She's a boss. So I always reach out to Samuel there, and he always used to be there for me. So if you are starting tech and you want your life to be easy, please have a friend that is already ahead of you. It will it will help you a lot. I think that is basically it. And since then, I have started Flutter. I've actually been able to work for some students like their projects, and I've gotten paid for it. I've also worked for different startups and I've gotten paid. Currently, I'm not working for any startup. I am just working on gigs right now. So Flutter is actually a good programming language to learn. So I think because of time, I'll just say this. If there's any question, you can just ask me.
Yeah. So I have a question. Can you
Yeah,
hear
I
me?
can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm actually a beginner, you understand, but like I started this year, I think
Yeah.
3 to 4 months ago, actually. Yeah. So
Okay.
like I I'm still learning the course, you understand, due to some
Yeah.
like issues and all that I had with my laptop. It took time for me, so that's why I'm still learning a bit. So like what would be like your like advice on like mastering how to code efficiently with Flutter? Okay.
Okay. The simple advice I'll have for you is just write a lot of code. Just write a lot of code and have someone that you can reach out to, because at the time you are writing, the truth is that you really don't know what you're writing. You're just like writing bunch of nonsenses. As time goes on, you get to like understand what you're writing. So just have someone that you
Mm,
can reach out to at any time to like tell you, okay, you are doing this the wrong way. This is how to do it, or this is a faster way to do this. And also we yeah, that is basically it. Have someone that you can reach out to that already have knowledge than you, and also get courses online, join boot camps, join communities, and write a lot of code. And the more you write, the
all
more you
right.
understand what you're writing.
Okay. I get that. Also, like I also heard this from someone. Like I tried to reach out to somebody that I know that is into like APIs.
Okay.
Like API right from Ubuntu. So and the person advised me to just like work on projects that should learn by building projects, which I see is good. But he said that there will be a lot of there will be a lot of
Yeah,
how
the
do I
person is
say this?
actually the person is actually right. When I say
Yeah,
write a lot of code, I actually mean work on projects, like build projects, and also build your portfolio as long as along the line. But the truth is that
yeah,
as you're writing code, you are new to this language, so you are bound to have errors. So that is why I advise you, you either join a community where you can ask questions, or have someone at the corner where you can always reach out to. Who you can always reach out to.
yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for that.
yeah. Thank you.
If any,
Please, what is
yeah,
your name, please?
it's Farouk that was asking. You didn't know.
Oh no, I don't know your name.
Yeah, me that I'm talking right now.
Yeah.
Farouk now.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Wow.
You didn't know. Wow.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if any of us have any question, you can ask him. Any of us have still have questions. Um, so I'm guessing there won't be
Yeah, I
questions.
guess there's no question. Thank
All right. Yeah. So so actually there's this camp, this online there's an online boot camp that I was supposed to that I can go through. Okay, sorry, online campus course that you can go through to help you. kickstart your mobile development learning to actually help you. It teaches you how to build Android apps from no programming experience, covers basic programming concepts, Android fundamentals, and 14 language skills needed for building apps. So students learn how to build UIs in Compose, but also about non-Compose topics like app architecture, data persistence, background work, and more and more. Existing programmers can still use this course and skip content about programming fundamentals if they already know them. So I'm going to send a link in the chat. So you should be able to see that it's going to really help, and we'll be going through this compose course together, and we'll be there to help you if there is any help you need. So this link is for beginners, while one for intermediates. It's called the Jetpack Compose, the Compose pathway, and it is for existing Android developers who are familiar with building Android apps using the Vue system. This collection of videos, articles, and code labs walk you through the fundamentals of using Compose to build Android UIs, including layouts, state theming, navigation, animations, testing, and more. So it includes guidance on how to migrate an existing Android app to Compose. So I'm going to send the link to that also in just a minute. Yeah. So the just note that the first link is for beginners. Let me the first link is for beginners, and the second one is for intermediate intermediate developers. So we'll be looking forward to going through this journey of learning Android development. So this is actually the beginning of the journey. It's going to be actually learn a lot of things about the fundamental like app app architecture, which is actually also something that's very important. Data persistence, background work, navigations, animations, testing, and more. So just try as much as possible to go through that link, those two links, whichever one you are, if it's the beginner or the intermediate. So I think that's yeah. So if do you have any questions about the program, about this Android course program, the Android Compose course. Anyways, you'll be able to once you click on link, you'll be able to see the details about how to get started, how you're supposed to start. So I think that should be it. Yeah. So I'd like to thank the guest speaker for giving giving us um, our time, and also I'd like to thank David Onuche for also trying his best to explain best ways of learning Android development. Thank you very much. So reach out to again. Don't forget reach out to Sorry through our Twitter account. And David, if you also have a Twitter account, you can send it. You can post it in the chat so that they'll be able to reach out to the link. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming for joining the event. Also, like since this event is recorded, the link to the recorded video will be sent to the group. So thank you very much, and have a good night. A good night.
Thank you.